Welcome to our explainer on C1500 to C1700, the medical renaissance in England. This is that incredible era where we finally started trusting our own eyes over ancient, dusty textbooks.
Today we're tackling four key areas: ideas about disease, everyday prevention and treatments, William Harvey's circulation, and lastly, the Great Plague of 1665. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Ideas about disease. We're going to look at what radically changed and, honestly, what stubbornly stayed exactly the same.
The absolute most crucial concept you need to know here is continuity. You see, the medical renaissance didn't just magically transform medicine overnight. Nope, most people still blindly trusted the ancient Roman physician Galen. His massive theory of the Four Humours, the belief that being sick just meant your bodily fluids were out of balance, that remained the absolute dominant way to diagnose people. But here is where things start to get interesting. We have to contrast Galen's deep continuity with a monumental figure of change, Thomas Sydenham. Often called the English Hippocrates, Sydenham radically shifted medicine away from those old ancient textbooks. He demanded direct, careful observation, and he started classifying diseases based on their actual physical symptoms.
Now, how did this shift happen? Well, it was totally fueled by revolutionary technology. Enter the printing press, brought to England by William Caxton. Suddenly, ideas that used to be painstakingly copied by hand could reach physicians all over the country. Combine that with the founding of the Royal Society in 1660, which basically gave scientists a massive platform to share and test discoveries, and medical ideas just skyrocketed.
Moving on to Section 2, Prevention, Treatment, and Training. So, how did all these grand scientific ideas actually impact the everyday patient?
Well, here's the crazy twist. For the average sick person, everyday medicine was pure continuity. I mean, day-to-day treatments barely moved an inch. If you fell ill, you were still relying on herbal remedies, humoral bloodletting, purging, and just basic home care. Those grand scientific theories, they hadn't quite translated into practical cures just yet. However, medical training, that saw a genuine revolution, and it was driven largely by one guy, Andreas Vesalius. For your exams, he is your absolute strongest historical evidence for change, simply because he boldly championed real human dissection. Take a look at this. It's an osteology plate from Vesalius's groundbreaking 1543 textbook, De Humani Corporis Fabrica. For 1,400 years, Galen's texts were treated as absolute gospel, but they were actually based on animals, which created massive anatomical errors. By dissecting actual human bodies, Vesalius produced the very first accurate, observation-based maps of human anatomy. It was a huge leap forward, even though he faced a ton of backlash from traditionalists.
Section 3. William Harvey's circulation. This is perhaps the most definitive individual breakthrough of the entire medical renaissance.
So, for literally centuries, Galen taught that the liver constantly produced fresh blood and that the body just burned it up like fuel. But William Harvey, he proved that was completely wrong. Through incredibly precise experimentation, Harvey discovered that blood isn't consumed at all. Instead, it circulates continuously around the body in a single, closed system, acting as a pump driven by the heart.
Notice those arm tourniquets shown right here in Harvey's defining 1628 publication, De Motu Cordis. He actually used them to mathematically prove the directional flow of blood. But individual genius just wasn't enough back then. Harvey really had to rely on the Royal Society to debate his findings, and of course the printing press to spread his ideas far and wide, to eventually overcome that stubborn traditionalist resistance.
And finally, Section 4, the Great Plague of London, 1665. This devastating outbreak is basically the ultimate real-world test of how far medical progress had actually come by this point.
To really understand people's reactions to the plague, we have to define a major concept, miasma theory. This was the incredibly widespread belief that disease was caused by bad air, foul vapors and noxious odors. Since nobody knew what a germ was yet, people truly believed that avoiding or purifying this bad air was literally their only line of defense.
We can see that exact belief in action with the famous 17th century plague doctor costume. See that distinctive beaked mask? It was actually stuffed with sweet-smelling herbs specifically to guard against the miasma. Yet, as the grim reality of the death carts in the street shows us, these unscientific theories completely failed to stop a massive municipal crisis. The official response was this fascinating mix of old habits and brand new organization. On one hand, people still desperately relied on abracadabra religious charms and old-school humoral bloodletting. But on the other hand, we see genuine administrative change. Constables were actually sealing infected houses for quarantine, and they organized mass night burials to try and control the public panic. They even ordered the killing of stray dogs and cats. The tragic irony there? By killing all the cats, they accidentally removed the natural predators of the rats that were actually carrying the plague fleas, which likely made the whole epidemic so much worse.
Take a look at this document. This is a London Bill of Mortality, and it's absolute proof of a new, organized government approach. Authorities started using these weekly printed records to carefully track deaths across different parishes. So while their actual medical treatments completely failed, this crude system of public health monitoring, that was something completely new.
Which brings us to the core question you absolutely must be able to answer for your exams. How far had medicine truly changed in England by 1700? You really have to balance the scales here. Yes, you have the profound scientific breakthroughs of Vesalius and Harvey, plus the printing press and the Royal Society laying down modern scientific foundations, but you also have incredibly deep continuity. A patient in 1700 was treated with the exact same herbal remedies and bloodletting as someone living centuries earlier. So the real story here isn't just about what we discovered, it's about how incredibly long it takes for a new discovery to actually change everyday life. Something to think about the next time you visit a doctor, right? Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the continuity in our own time.